Dylan lived alone on a dry, forgotten planet. The sky was always dusty orange, and strong winds carried sand across the ground like waves in the ocean. He had been sent there years ago to help build a small colony. When the colony failed, most people left, but Dylan stayed behind. He liked quiet. He liked machines more than people. And he had an old workshop filled with scrap, tools, and half-finished projects. One evening, while Dylan was fixing a broken power core, the ground shook, not like a small tremor. This felt deep and heavy, like something had crashed nearby. Then, a loud boom echoed through the air. Dylan ran outside. A dark streak cut across the sky, ending behind a nearby dune. Smoke rose in the distance. He grabbed his toolkit, jumped onto his old hoverbike, and sped toward the crash. Curiosity burned inside him. Maybe it was a cargo ship, maybe parts he could use, or maybe just junk. But whatever it was, he had to see it. As he got closer, he saw pieces of strange metal scattered across the sand, not human-made, not from any species he recognized either. The ship had hit hard, its long body broken and half-buried. Dylan stopped the bike and walked slowly around it, touching the surface. The metal felt warm. There was a soft hum coming from inside, like the ship was still alive. Barely. Hello. Dylan called out. No answer. A side panel had cracked open. He peeked inside. Sparks danced in the air, and glowing symbols blinked weakly. The design was smooth and elegant, unlike anything he had ever seen. He reached inside carefully and found a power relay. It looked badly damaged, but the structure itself was still strong. I can fix this, he whispered to himself. He went back to his workshop and brought back a flatbed lifter. It took hours to drag the ship piece by piece to his place. Some parts were too big, so he had to disassemble them first. The sun set, but he didn't stop. He worked through the night, sweat covering his face. Excitement gave him energy. For days, Dylan worked on the ship. He cleaned out the sand, replaced power lines, and rerouted damaged systems. Some of the tech was too advanced for him to fully understand. But he was clever. He used what he knew and tested everything step by step. One afternoon, while connecting a human power cell to the alien system, the ship suddenly lit up. Soft lights glowed inside. Strange music played from somewhere deep in the ship. Dylan jumped back in surprise. "Oh, it's alive," he said. A voice echoed from the ship. It didn't speak his language, but the tone wasn't angry. It sounded confused. The lights flickered, then focused on him. A beam scanned his body from head to toe. A known life form. Non-hostile, the voice finally said in broken English, "Access limited. Queen, status critical." Dylan blinked. Queen. He stepped deeper into the ship. As he walked through the narrow hall, doors opened slowly. Finally, he reached a room with a round glass chamber in the center. Inside it, floating in blue liquid, was a woman, not human. Her skin was smooth and silver blue, and her long hair floated like smoke. Her eyes were closed. She looked peaceful, but weak. "Is she the queen?" Dylan asked out loud. "Life signs stable. Recovery incomplete," the ship answered. He looked at her for a long time. She didn't look like a threat. She looked lost, maybe even in danger. Dylan didn't know why, but he felt like he had to protect her. "All right," he said, rolling up his sleeves. "Let's fix your ship properly." He didn't know who she was or why she was here, but he had fixed machines all his life. Now, for the first time, he might be fixing something more important than he ever imagined. The next morning, Dylan woke up to strange lights blinking all over the alien ship. The air around the ship felt warmer, like it was healing itself. He stepped into the hallway, and the soft hum from before was now louder and smoother. It almost sounded like the ship was breathing. "Good morning," Dylan said, not sure if the ship could hear him. A calm voice replied, "Greetings, human engineer. Status, partial recovery achieved." "You're welcome," Dylan muttered, rubbing his eyes. "How's the queen?" The ship responded, vital signs steady. Pod life support functional. Consciousness not yet restored. Dylan walked to the chamber again. The alien woman floated inside. Her eyes still closed. Her face looked calmer. Now, the light around the pod had changed to a soft green. A good sign, he guessed. He placed a hand gently on the pod's glass. "You hang in there," he said softly. He went back to his workshop corner in the same ship. Over the next few hours, he kept fixing broken systems, coolant tubes, communication lines. In one section of the engine that had melted from the crash, he didn't know what many buttons did. But he learned quickly. When something worked, he'd smile and nod. When it didn't, he'd mutter figures and try again. Suddenly, alarms beeped. The ship shook slightly, and a screen turned red. Dylan rushed to the control panel. "What's wrong?" he asked. The ship replied, "External. Signal detected. Unknown source. Approach vector consistent with pursuit." Dylan frowned. "Someone followed her?" The voice answered, "Possible. Enemy units likely searching for Queen. Stealth mode failing. Systems damaged. Then we need to move fast," Dylan said. He ran outside and began reinforcing the power connectors with parts from his workshop. He wired human batteries to the alien engine core. It was risky. Some wires sparked. He got shocked once and fell over, but he didn't stop. He kept working. He had to get the ship mobile. Staying in one place was no longer safe. After sunset, the ship's lights changed. The soft blue glow brightened, and the doors opened fully for the first time. A new voice spoke. It was not the AI. It was gentle, unsure. "Who are you?" Dylan turned toward the pod. The glass had opened. The alien woman now sat upright, breathing slowly. Her eyes deep silver watched him with caution. "I'm Dylan," he said, nervous. "You crashed. I fixed your ship, sort of." The woman touched her chest, then looked around. "You are not Dravari." "Nope, human," he said. "But don't worry, I didn't mean any harm." She blinked slowly, still watching him. "You saved me." Dylan nodded. "Yeah, your ship was falling apart. I just did what I could." For a moment, the alien queen said nothing. Then she lowered her head slightly, a gesture of thanks. "I am Veari," she said, "Queen of the Dravari. My ship, my people, they were betrayed." Dylan raised his eyebrows. "So it's true. You really are a queen." Veari nodded weakly. "This vessel was my royal carrier. It was attacked during travel. I escaped, but they followed." "Yeah," Dylan said, pointing to the screen. "Someone's coming now, probably looking for you." Veari closed her eyes, thinking, "We must leave. If they find me here, they will not spare you." "Then let's not wait," Dylan said. Rushing to the control deck. "Can your ship fly?" Veari looked at him. "With your repairs?" "Perhaps, but not far. We need time." Dylan smiled. "Then I'll give you time." He climbed into the pilot seat, though it was clearly made for someone taller. Veari walked slowly to the control panel beside him. Together, they began startup. Sequence. The ship rumbled as the engines came alive. Parts of the hull still creaked. But the ship was holding. Power readings climbed. Then, outside, lights blinked in the night sky. Small ships landing far across the desert. "They're here," Dylan said. I placed a hand on the console. "Prepare for launch." The ship rose from the sand slowly, unsteady but determined. The engines flared, and then it shot upward into the sky, leaving the desert far below. As they flew through the clouds, Dylan looked over at her. "So, Queen Veari, what now?" She looked back at him. "Now, human, we survive." The alien ship flew through the clouds, climbing higher into the sky. Dylan's hands gripped the controls tightly as the engines roared. Smoke still leaked from some vents, and warning lights blinked across the panels. Beside him, Queen Veari stood calm and quiet, her silver blue eyes watching the sky ahead. "Are we being followed?" Dylan asked. I closed her eyes for a second. "No enemy signals detected yet. But they will not stop." "Great," Dylan muttered. "Barely got this thing flying. And now we're in a chase?" Veari touched a part of the panel, and a hologram appeared. It showed nearby planets and moons. She pointed to a small moon with green rings. "There," she said. "Hidden base. Old Dravari outpost. Loyal ones may still be there." "How far?" Dylan asked. Few hours, she said. If engines hold. The ship shook again. Dylan could feel it in his bones. The repairs were holding for now, but he didn't know how long. He sighed and leaned back. You're really a queen? He asked suddenly. Vy or I nodded slowly. By blood and by law. I was trained to lead since birth. So, royalty. And I'm just some guy who fixes junk in the desert, Dylan said with a dry laugh. Vayari looked at him. Yet you saved me. Without you, I would be dead. Dylan looked down. I just did what anyone would do. No, she said. Most would leave a broken ship to rust. You helped. For a moment, there was silence. Only the hum of the ship filled the room. Then, alarms beeped. A red light flashed. What now? Dylan asked, rushing to the console. Vy I looked at the screen. Stealth failing. Enemy scouts approaching. 3 small crafts. Dylan frowned. We can't outrun them, can we? Not like this, she replied. Can we fight? Vary's face became serious. Only with your help. Together, they moved through the ship. Vary guided him to a chamber filled with glowing crystals and control rods. She placed her hand on a platform. An armor plate slid open. This is the core of my ship's defense, she said. But it was damaged. You may understand machines better than I. Dylan stepped forward and looked around. Alien tech mixed with exposed wires and broken circuits. He smiled a little. Yeah, I can work with this, while Vary handled power regulation. Dylan rerouted energy paths and reconnected shattered tubes. Sparks flew. His fingers were black with grease. But he worked fast. Ready? He asked. Vy I nodded. Ready. The enemy ships appeared behind them, small, sharp-looking vessels, painted in black and red. They opened fire, lasers slicing through the sky. Hold on. Dylan shouted. The alien queen ship spun quickly. New energy shields pulsed along its sides. With Dylan's fixes, the defense turrets activated. Glowing orbs flew from the ship, hitting one enemy craft and forcing it to spin out. One down. Dylan said. Vy I locked eyes on the other 2. We fight together. She guided the ship while Dylan controlled the weapons. The second enemy fired at them, but the newly fixed shields absorbed most of the blast. Dylan aimed and launched 2 quick pulses. One missed, the other hit straight into the enemy engine. Fire and smoke followed. The last enemy craft turned and flew away. That's right, run, Dylan yelled. Vayari watched the screen, then finally said, We are safe, for now. They sat in silence, both breathing hard. Dylan's hands were shaking a bit. Vayari placed a hand on his shoulder. You are brave, she said quietly. Just don't like being shot at, he replied with a weak smile. Vayari led him back to the front of the ship. The stars were clearer now. The moon with green rings was close. Almost there, she said. Dylan looked at her. Vayari, do you trust them? The ones on that moon. I must, she said. They're all I have left, and if they're not loyal? Vayari stared ahead. Then we fight. Again, as they approached the moon, the ship slowed. A signal was sent from their vessel, and a small door opened on the moon's surface. The ship entered a hidden hangar built deep inside the rock. The hangar lights flickered to life, and the ship landed gently. They stepped out onto the cold floor. Guards in strange armor stood waiting. They looked at Vayari in shock. Then, one dropped to one knee. Queen Vayari, we thought you were gone. Vayari stood tall. Not gone. Not yet. And Dylan, standing beside her, realized this was no longer just about a crash or a broken ship. He was part of something much bigger now. Dylan looked around the underground hangar. The walls were made of dark stone and metal. Strange lights lined the ceiling. Everything felt old, like the place hadn't been touched in years. But now, soldiers in silver armor were moving fast, clearing space for Queen Vayari's ship. The leader of the guards, a tall alien with a sharp jaw and green eyes, stepped forward. Your Highness, this base is still loyal. Your presence is a miracle. Vayari gave a small nod. The enemy thinks I'm dead. We must use that. The guard looked at Dylan. And this human? Vayari's voice became firm. He is under my protection. He saved me. Without him, I would not be here. The guard looked surprised but said nothing. Dylan raised a hand and gave a small wave. Hi, I'm just the mechanic. Vary's lips curved slightly at his words. They were led into a control room. Dusty screens flickered to life. The place had clearly been unused for a long time, but it still worked. Vary sat in the command chair. The guard stood at attention. Show me the Empire's current state, she said. Maps appeared on the screens. Red marks blinked across many star systems. Her empire, once peaceful and wide, was now covered in enemy control. The traitor, general, known as Dravos, had taken command. Cities were under martial law. Voices that spoke against him had gone silent. He moves fast, Vary said. Dylan studied the map. He's got fleets on every route. If we try to fly to your capital, we'll be shot down. True, she said. But we have something. He does not expect me. Dylan asked. Vy. I turned toward him. Yes, and the royal ship. It's still not perfect, Dylan said. I got the shields working and weapons online, but the core engine is unstable. Vary stood and walked over to him. Can you fix it? Dylan hesitated. I can try, but I'll need tools, supplies, time. You'll have them, she said. Use anything you need. He nodded and walked back to the hangar with two engineers from Vary's team. They spoke a different language at first, but after some translator help, they began to understand each other. Dylan showed them how he had used human parts to power the alien systems. They stared at him like he was some kind of genius. This method is unusual, one engineer said. Human method, Dylan smiled. Works better than it looks. For the next 2 days, Dylan worked nonstop. The royal ship was still in bad shape. Some parts were melted. Others had wires that sparked the moment power flowed. But with help from the Dravari engineers and access to real tools, the ship started to improve. Vy. Visited often. She asked questions and offered suggestions. She also shared stories about her home, her people, her memories. Before war, my father was a peaceful king, she said once while watching Dylan weld a panel. He believed in unity. Dravos was his advisor. We didn't see the betrayal coming. People like him hide well, Dylan said, wiping sweat from his face. They wait until you're weak. Then they strike. Vary nodded. I was flying to a peaceful meeting when he attacked. My guard ships were destroyed. I barely escaped. Lucky crash, Dylan said. Lucky for both of us. Vary looked at him. It was not luck. It was choice. You could have walked away from that. Wreck, maybe, he said. But fixing things, that's what I do. She smiled again just a little. By the end of the 3rd day, the ship's systems were running smoother. Dylan had replaced the engine's broken coils with a blend of alien material and human stabilizers. It's not pretty, he told Vary, but it'll fly. Good, she said, because we don't have much time. Reports came and enemy patrols were searching nearby systems. Dravos suspected she was alive. The signal from the battle in the desert had been picked up. He'll come here soon. The guard commander warned. Vy. I stood tall in the command room. Then we move first. We go to the capital. We take back what is ours. Dylan walked in just in time to hear those words. You sure about that? His fleet's big. Vary looked at him. With you, with the royal ship, and with those still loyal to me, we have a chance. He stared at her for a moment. Her voice wasn't just strong. It carried something powerful. Something he hadn't heard in a long time. Hope. All right, Dylan said. Let's go get your empire back. Inside the old moon base, the sound of engines and tools echoed through the hangar. The royal ship, once half destroyed, now stood tall again. The outer hull was repaired, shields reinforced, and weapons tested. Dylan had even added human upgrades to the main system's small things. That made a big difference. Queen Vary walked through the ship with Dylan beside her. Both wore light armor now. She had replaced her royal gown with something more practical. She looked like a leader preparing for war. How does it feel? She asked him as they stepped into the control room. Feels solid, Dylan replied. It's not perfect, but she'll hold. Vary placed a hand on the smooth metal of the console. This ship was made to carry my bloodline. Now, It carries hope. Dylan looked at her. Hope's heavy. You sure it'll fly? Vayari smiled slightly. With you as co-pilot? Yes. The plan was clear. They would fly directly to the capital planet, hidden behind a cluster of stars. The city had been taken over by General Dravos. Loyal forces across the system would follow if they saw her return. But getting close would be dangerous. Enemy ships filled the space routes before launch. Vayari called her crew into a circle inside the hangar. Dylan stood near the back, quiet. I know many of you thought I was dead, Vayari began. But I survived because of this human. He found me. He saved me. And now, with his help, I return to finish what was stolen from us. She turned toward Dylan. He is no longer just a helper. He is one of us. Dylan felt a little awkward, but proud. The crew gave a respectful nod. He nodded back. Soon, they launched. The ship lifted off. Moving with strength and purpose, stars blurred past as they entered light speed. That system, now fully repaired, kept them on course. Enemy scans in. Range within 2 minutes. The eye warned. Vayari sat in the pilot's chair. Dylan handled the engine controls. Weapons ready, she said. They dropped out of light speed near the edge of the capital's defense zone. Just as expected, two large enemy cruisers were waiting. They know, Dylan said. Let them. Vayari replied. The cruisers hailed them, unidentified vessel. Power down and prepared to be boarded. Vayari leaned forward. This is Queen. Vayari of the Dravari Empire. Lower your weapons or face justice. There was silence. Then the cruisers opened fire. Dylan didn't flinch. Told you it'd be a warm welcome. Vayari's hands moved fast over the controls. The ship dodged. The first blasts, Dylan activated the defense shields. The human upgrades kicked in, keeping energy flowing smoothly even under fire. Return fire. Vayari said calmly. Turrets opened from both wings. The ship shot glowing blasts that hit one cruiser's weapon bay, disabling it. The second cruiser turned to block them, but Dylan pushed more power to the engines. Hang on, he yelled. The ship spun sideways and slipped through the gap between them. The second cruiser fired again, but missed. Vayari launched counterblasts and hit the rear engine. Flames burst behind them. Both cruisers disabled. The eye confirmed. Good flying, Dylan said. Breathing hard. Vayari smiled. Good fixing. They entered the planet's orbit. The capital city spread below tall towers, shining domes. And now military ships flying patrol. They had one chance to land safely. Vayari sent out a signal. To all loyal Dravari, your queen returns. At first, there was nothing. Then, a few ships flying over the city changed course. They lit up with the royal emblem. Look, Dylan said. They're on your side. Vayari nodded. Not all forgot me. But as they neared the royal palace, more ships appeared dark, sharp, and fast. Dravos' elite guard, she said. They'll fight to protect his lies. Then let's hit them first. Dylan said. Vayari opened the main weapon system. Dylan pushed energy into the core. The royal ship charged forward, blasting enemy ships with perfect aim. The sky above the capital lit up like fireworks. Soon, the way to the palace was clear. Vayari stood up. Prepare for landing. As the ship touched down in the palace square, crowds gathered. Some gasped, others dropped to their knees. Guards rushed out but stopped when they saw her. Dylan followed Vayari down the ramp. The air was tense. No one spoke. Then an old royal advisor stepped forward. My queen, is it truly you? Vayari lifted her chin. It is. And I have come to take back what is mine. The palace square was silent. Soldiers in black armor stood at the top of the marble stairs, their weapons ready. At the bottom stood Queen Vayari, tall and calm. Beside her was Dylan, his hands ready near the tool belt he had turned into a weapon pouch. Behind them, the royal ship's engines still hummed, glowing softly in the dark sky. Dravos will not surrender, Vayari said quietly. Then we make him. Dylan replied. A door opened at the top of the stairs. General Dravos stepped out, tall and broad, wearing heavy gold-trimmed armor. His voice echoed over the crowd. This is a trick. The queen is dead. Vayari took one step forward. You tried to kill me. But I lived, and now I've returned, the crowd gasped. Even some soldiers looked unsure now. Their eyes moved. From Dravos to the queen. They had seen her face. She was real, and she was standing strong. You will not win, Dravos growled. Your empire is mine now. Veari didn't blink. You are no king. You are a traitor. Dravos raised his hand, seized them. The soldiers hesitated. Many lowered their weapons. Some even backed away. But a few loyal to Dravos charged down the stairs. Veari stepped forward. But Dylan moved faster. He aimed a small human-made launcher and fired a non-lethal pulse. It knocked down two of the attackers. The rest stopped. I built that from an old mining tool, Dylan said with a grin. Works great. Veari nodded at him, then spoke to the crowd. Dravos ruled with fear, but I lead with truth. Choose now, stand with him or with your true queen. A strong silence filled the square. Then one soldier dropped his weapon and knelt. Another followed. Then a third. Soon, most of the square was kneeling. Only Dravos and a few guards remained standing. Dravos shouted in anger and pulled out a hidden blade. He charged toward Veari. Before Dylan could move, Veari stepped forward. Drawing a thin glowing staff from her belt, she blocked the strike, then pushed Dravos back with a spin. You will not touch me again, she said coldly. Dravos growled and attacked again. But she was faster. Her movements were smooth, full of grace and strength. With one final sweep, she knocked the blade from his hand and placed the glowing staff at his chest. Your time is over, she said. Dravos fell to his knees. The remaining guards surrounded him and took him away. The crowd stood. Some cheered, some cried. Others looked stunned. The royal banners, once torn, were now raised again. Veari turned to face the people. The empire will rise once more, not with fear, but with unity. The crowd shouted in support. Her voice had reached them. Her presence had changed everything. Later that night, in the royal hall, the great doors were opened again for the first time in months. Veari sat on the throne, not with pride, but with purpose. Her advisors returned. Old commanders came forward and offered their loyalty again. And Dylan? He stood at the back, quiet and tired. He didn't belong among nobles, and he knew it. But Veari saw him. She stood from her throne and walked toward him. You should be beside me, she said softly. I'm not royal, Dylan replied. I'm just a mechanic. Veari smiled. You fixed more than just my ship. You gave me back my strength. He looked at her, unsure. What now? Now, she said. We rebuild. Together. That night, Dylan stood by the palace windows, looking at the stars. The royal ship rested in the courtyard, fully repaired. The people had hope again. The empire had its queen, and he, a simple human from a dusty world, had helped make it all possible. But deep in the shadows of space, far from the capital, a hidden fleet received word of Dravos' defeat. Another enemy watched in silence, waiting. The story wasn't over yet, but for now, the light had returned. After the defeat of Dravos, the empire began to heal. Queen Veari worked day and night, meeting with leaders, fixing broken cities, and restoring hope. Dylan stayed close, helping with technology and repairs wherever he could. Though he was a human among aliens, they welcomed him as a hero. Veari stood on the balcony of the palace one evening, watching the stars twinkle above. Dylan joined her, holding two cups of warm tea. He handed one to her and smiled. You know, he said, I never thought fixing a broken ship would change my whole life. Veari smiled softly. And yet, it did. They talked quietly about their world's dusty planet and her shining cities. They shared stories of hope and loss, laughter and fear. Slowly, a deep friendship grew between them. One day, Veari called a meeting with her council. The galaxy has many dangers, she said, but also many chances. Humans and Dravari can be stronger together. Some council members were unsure. They worried about trusting humans. But Veari was firm. Dylan is proof that courage and kindness cross all stars. She asked Dylan to speak. He stood before the council and shared his simple words. I'm just a mechanic. he said. But I believe when we help each other, we all grow stronger, humans and aliens, together. The council slowly nodded, seeing the truth in his words. News spread across the galaxy. Humans and Dravari began to work together, sharing technology, culture, and friendship. Old fears melted away. Vari's empire became a symbol of unity, a place where different species lived and learned side by side. One evening, as the royal ship rested in the palace courtyard, Vari and Dylan stood beside it. She placed a gentle hand on the hull. "This ship brought us together," she said, "and it will carry us forward." Dylan looked at her, feeling a quiet happiness. "We made something good from broken parts," Vari smiled, "just like us." They watched the stars together, knowing the future was bright because they had found strength not just in power, but in friendship, and somewhere far away. Other worlds watched too, wondering what humans and Dravari could do next. The end.